Welcome everyone. Excited for our events here and talking about demo days and really how you can make the most of an introductory demo call. This event is put on as a collaboration between Prepare for VC. So that's our um, company and venture hub that helps support early stage startup founders through everything from individual to cohort based and community programming. We have a variety of resources set up to help you scale your startup story. And our event group, we're also a co organizer of Boston New Technology. It's a meetup group started over 10 years ago by the founder, Chris Ricana. It's a mix of entrepreneurial educational programming and startup pitch and showcase events that are designed to really help founders get feedback early on and be able to, um, connect and network with a variety of other entrepreneurs, advisors, investors, and find the right connections to move their business forward. So, yeah, happy to share some more info along the way. Anybody that reaches out. Our goal here at Prepare for VC is really to help you find the right people, programs, and resources to help move your business to the next stage and help you achieve your goals faster. And we've been working with Marc Kitz as a mentor and as a expert in our programming for a while. He's been a great resource for all of our founders, and really excited for his workshop and presentation here today. And we're going to keep it pretty interactive too. So there's a chat there's a chat box where you can go to the session and type in, any questions, introduce yourselves, meet the other attendees. And then there's also a Q&A tab where you can either write in a question or click video Q&A, which is basically a hand raise saying, you have a question and you'd like to come on stage and ask. And I'm going to turn it over to Marc. He's a sales expert and strategist. And yeah, I'm excited for your workshop. And yeah, we'll be monitoring the chat along the way, and keep it interactive if you want to pause and ask questions throughout.
All right. Well, thank you, Jason. Let me see if I can share some slides here, and come back. Let's see if I can get it into the right. Can you see that? Okay.
We can.
Gotcha. Okay. Maybe I need to go into that, into that mode there. All right. So is it okay to get going?
Yeah, perfect.
All right. Sounds good. So I am not stuck on going through these slides. Please, if you have questions, stop me. This is about trying to provide some ideas. So if you come away with one idea that helps you with make you more effective, improve how your demo calls and meetings go, then fantastic. So let me see if I can get here. Okay. All right. So just a little bit about me. Live in West Hartford, Connecticut. 37 some odd years as a salesperson, sales manager, and a coach, a mentor. Always had a focus on driving new business. Always loved the pursuit of trying to find and drive new business and managing through sort of complex sales sales processes. So love trying to figure out that that puzzle. Went to URI locally around here. So so excuse me, I got something something in my eye here. So I spend a lot of my time working with founders, CEOs of startups. And what I hear from them after they've been in a demo kind of a meeting or presentation, from them is, from their perspective, they felt like they maybe spent too much time talking, and possibly are coming away realizing they want more information. They need to better understand where the client's coming from, what their interests are, what's happening and what challenges they're facing. And the one that I hear those two a lot, and the one that I hear quite a lot is that a meeting ends with no action items, meaning the potential client that they're presenting to sees that they're getting to the end of the scheduled time, and they go off to the next meeting, and now they're sort of chasing that that contact for for follow-up meetings, and it's kind of an uncomfortable position. So, that sound familiar to anybody?
Absolutely. Actually, we're not seeing, or I guess we're still stuck on the first slide.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, now it's changing.
Gotcha.
Perfect.
Okay. Did it? Are you seeing that second slide?
Yeah, now it's changing.
Got it. Okay. Tell me if you see the next one.
Yep. Yeah, what I hear from founders and CEOs.
This should be challenges with demo meetings.
Looks like it's on the third. Oh, okay. Now we're good.
Is that better? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. For some reason, that full slide mode is not working. So I will try to. Can you see that? Okay.
Looks good.
Okay, got it. So certainly there can be a number of challenges with demo meetings. One of them I hear a lot about is that there frequently are about 30 minutes, the amount of time that potential clients are willing to either willing to provide, or that's what the person requesting is asking for. Other challenges that I see and hear about is that going into the meeting, you may have less information than looking back than you would like about what they're focused on trying to achieve, what challenges they're facing, maybe how their decision process works, what else with regard to a potential solution they are considering. So just wondering, anyone out there who is other challenges that you might add to the top 3 or 4 that you're facing?
Yeah, we have some comments in the chat. Pat saying, he was just very bad at sales when he first started. Jerry saying, not selling, but he's demoing and pitching to investors. And yeah, if anybody else wants to share, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Sebastian, delivering concise information is a challenge, and Jerry's customers' value propositions are a challenge to consider as well.
Yeah, it's certainly so some great comments, and again, going back to the delivering concise information, really hitting the target as with regard to a value proposition. It's challenging in 30 minutes, particularly if you don't know them, know that person or the company very well. So, but can be done. Oops. There we go. So some things to think about as you're as you maybe already giving some thought to as you head toward or preparing for meetings. What goals do you have in mind? And these are just sort of a sampling, and some depending on the solution you're offering and or the situation. What I mean is the organization you're presenting to small and has one decision maker or two, or is it large and is it kind of more of a navigation you're going to have to do? So the goals that you have for demo meetings, and hopefully you're thinking about as you prepare for one, what do you want to try to achieve, can vary. They can be some of these. So it could be as simple as, I just want to get to know this client, this organization better, and what's driving their interests, or what goals they have. Even just develop a little rapport. How can I share enough, to the person's point about the solution I'm offering, or the value presented to other customers, to generate interest, challenging in 30 minutes. Certainly we're all interested, would love to get next steps scheduled. So we'll talk about how possibly to improve on how that's going, and of course closing a deal. So just a few ideas as you head toward your next or your upcoming demo meetings about what goals you may want to achieve. So let's see if I can. Here we go. So some steps. Hopefully, what I've tried to do is make these just easily actionable, that you could try at 2:00, today, that you can take as you get ready for upcoming demo meetings. So first one is define what you mean for your situation, your solution, by what I call a qualified opportunity. So you imagine you all have put a lot of thought into what your target market looks like, size of company, types of company, and so on. What I sort of add to that in terms of how you might define a qualified opportunity is how much of these are some common things you would see in this kind of a definition. How much of a sense of urgency are you looking for? Do they, in order to be a great candidate for your solution, do they need to be sort of hair on fire and need to do something in 2 weeks, or is it 6 months? From a funding perspective, obviously funding being available is critical. So how does that work? What kind of challenges do your potential clients really need to be facing in order to drive an interest in the solution you're offering? So I have a client I used to work with who's an IP strategy expert, and he used to say that he found that his clients needed to be crispy, is the word he used, crispy enough in order to really realize the value that he can provide. What he meant by that was that the client had tried other paths, other solutions, and they didn't work out, for whatever reason. Of course, fitting your target market. So I think it will help a lot as you think about upcoming demo meetings, about how many, if this were, that's the reason I kind of have this checklist and sort of icon on the right here, is how many of these would you check off before knowing what you know at that moment about that potential client? And do you know enough in order to proceed? Remember, by the way, this is a two-way street. What I mean is that it's okay to want and need and pursue more information to see if, from your perspective, this potential client's a good fit. It's not just necessarily coming from their perspective. So we're spending some time on defining what you call a qualified opportunity. That now, working backwards from that, so what your definition is, what do you already know about that prospective client? And maybe almost more importantly, what do you need to learn before the meeting that could make you, again, going back to the 30 minutes and a couple of great comments about how to, be concise and provide an appropriate value proposition that will make sense to them. What can you learn before the meeting about their trends, about what's going on in their business, how their decision process might work, if there are multiple people involved, what criteria they may likely be using to evaluate their options, and so on. So homework can be you can get information, learn from other people that maybe have pursued this organization, and what I call an adjacent partner that is selling a solution that complements yours. Maybe they have a working relationship with that particular client already. Can be really informative about how things work and what's going on in that prospective client that you're looking at. And sometimes the process can be 15 minutes. Sometimes it can be an hour. Again, going back to depends on the solution you're offering and the situation, how much time you can or want to put into that homework. Planning and reviewing an agenda. So most of the time when you're setting up a demo meeting, imagine you have a primary contact and someone who's kind of orchestrating with you. And I hope that sometimes that primary contact becomes what you can call an inside coach, someone who is kind of rooting for you, maybe even actively helps you with your effort, to try to align your solution to their interests. So before going into the demo meeting, try to work, if at all possible, work with your primary contact on what topics you're going to cover, who's going to be there from both sides, what questions might they likely ask, given maybe the other demos they've seen before or what their concerns are, and what might they see, for example, as potential next steps. So this kind of little brief conversation can really help you make the best possible use, along with the other action items of that 30 minutes or so that you get. Questions, thoughts?
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, you can either use the chat or the Q&A. And then I also think this one, I'm going to put it up on the screen from Pat. Is an interesting topic for discussion as well. He's saying our product is so big that it takes about an hour to go through it with questions, but now he's really trying to focus on the power features of the platform instead of the whole platform. So yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Sure. That's it's and so what he say, if I heard you right, Jason, is that this solution to take someone from front to back, the whole solution takes an hour. Is that
Yep.
about right? So if they're only giving you half an hour, because ideally it'd be incredible if they gave you 2 hours, then you'd have an hour to do that and have lots of conversation. Probably pretty challenging, I imagine, is what this person is saying. So if you only have half an hour, going back to these steps about how you define a qualified opportunity and what can you learn before walking in will help you, sort of organically sort of work backwards and figure out, okay, if in half an hour, if I've got 10 minutes or so of that half an hour to share some essential portions of the solution, I want to make sure that they hit the target in terms of the issues that this customer is trying to solve. So it generates enough interest to have a longer conversation.
Right.
That makes sense?
That sounds great. Yeah, and we had another question here from Edgar as well, asking when an MVP is ready to be demoed.
Well, it's a couple of thoughts. You know, it some of it is from here about what you know, what you're learning about your potential clients. Um, and actually, I have a couple of thoughts, and Jason, certainly given your organization's work, would love to hear what you think. Um, I my thought about that is that it doesn't have to be perfect. That it's sort of if it's 80, 85%, 90% sort of there, it's good enough to get feedback from those that are sort of you're relatively close to, that are more than happy to provide good feedback for you. Then that's one definition of ready. Jason, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of the things you've touched on. It's part of it's also the mindset going into the call. So, if you're demoing for feedback and to see which features are really going to be important for the user, that's a little bit different call than if you're demoing to sell, to get a letter of intent or a sale from a customer. But, either of those kind of built out enough that you can show them what those power features are and why they would want to use it, but also to get their feedback on whether it's something they'd use as is today or whether they need to see a few other features built out to be really excited about it.
This interesting. I've also found in working with CEO, startup founders and CEOs that it's one other sort of answer to that question is ready when you, the CEO or founder, could could take them through an overview almost without the slides. You're so comfortable with it that could you take someone through an overview with no slides or one or two? So, and within that sort of 10 minutes, and what you need to focus on, excuse me, would come from what you learned before and what you learned. We'll talk about sort of the flow of some of these calls as you're having the early part of the conversation. So you make a great point, Jason, about what are the goals? What are you trying to achieve in that call?
Right.
Other questions?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Oh yeah, one more here is I'm curious if you recommend doing a live demo on your product or put it together through a PowerPoint highlighting the features. So yeah, do you go into the platform and do you take screenshots and show what it looks like on a PowerPoint?
This is another one. I have a thought about it. I'd love to hear Jason, Steve, Chris, your opinion here. If you're going to do a live demo, you ought to be really rock solid sure that from the technology is all going to work. Your Wi-Fi connection, there's things that are out of your control can derail what you're trying to do. Particularly when you're limited on time and let's say if the goal is I'm going to generate enough interest where we can have a longer conversation, that do everything you can to control the environment. So maybe it's I'm making it up, a slide or two that gives them an overview of how, let's say you're developing an app, of how the value an app provides. It's provided to other clients, and you show some screenshots that are in some natural flow, and that's good enough, to generate that excitement. Jason? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think you're right on target there, and it's kind of it's a little bit depends if there's going to be kind of the product itself. So, is it something you know, like 100% what you want to show, or something where, you know, you want the client to ask about a use case, and then you know, show them on the platform what it would look like. So yeah, I mean, some of it's dependent, but also, you know, the tech piece you mentioned is really you know, a really good thought there too. Is, you know, if it's slides you put together, you know 100% what it's going to look like. There's no tech difficulties on the platform. Then the other side is just, you know, there's a little bit more of that flexibility in what you can show if it's something you can do live, and, you know, see where the customer, potential customer, what they want to see.
Sure. Maybe maybe you have plan A and plan B, so
Right.
you could almost be ready for both.
Yeah. Oh, great questions. I think that those are all the questions for now,
Questions?
but
Okay. All right. Keep going.
yeah,
Okay.
sounds good.
So so we talked about reviewing the agenda, and here's kind of the next step: is plan for questions. What I mean is, have some questions that you want to ask ready to go. So, if we go back to, the sort of step 1, 2, where we talked a little bit about doing some homework beforehand, and in doing that, you're going to realize most likely there's something you either want to learn, something you want to confirm, some kind of question something you don't know. So, uh, have a plan to ask those questions in half an hour. It's hard to ask 10 questions, but maybe you have 2, 3, 4 sort of plan. Um, and think about what questions you're going to be asked. Is it about other clients? Is it about how your pricing works? How about implementation? So, for example, I had a discussion with a client I work with that about upcoming calls that they had and about pricing. So how do you want to handle that? They were kind of working on settling on where their pricing is going to land. And what they decided was that they want to give the crisp answer would be they would say will be within a certain range depending on factor sort of X and Y. So so the key is you can't be prepared for every question. But there are certainly those that are common, and good to be ready with how you want to answer those, so you come across crisp and confident. Certainly. So thoughts about that? Questions or? All right. Guess I'll
That
keep
makes
going.
sense.
All right. Okay. So now, you've kind of gone through this flow. You've prepared. You've thought about questions you want to ask. You got some guidance. And so on, and you put this, sort of a discussion flow. Doesn't necessarily have to be a strict agenda. Is how do you want to manage the time? It's given to this. Jason, you mentioned someone. There were a couple of points. One gentleman, Jerry, about how do you kind of get this sort of concise information or your value proposition in a limited amount of time? So it's important to think about how you see the meeting flowing. It may not always work out that way, and sometimes it doesn't. So just roughly estimating, okay, if introducing ourselves and discovering me, asking a few of those planned questions takes approximately 10 minutes. And now just to the other question about, all right, I don't have an hour to do a demo, demo and an overview. I've got 5 or 10 minutes, somewhere in that range, and I want to leave time for discussion. Now you're potentially at 20 minutes, 25 minutes, depending on how all that goes. So just think through that, and that's an important element when you're working with the person you're orchestrating this meeting with, just to kind of go over that a little bit and mention to them. And I have this sort of highlighted, bolded here. Make sure, no matter what happens in these calls, keep an eye on the clock, and when you have about 5 minutes left, hit the pause button to do a couple of things. And one of them I don't have here. One is to check in, if you will, with the potential client about, how am I doing? How are things from your perspective going in terms of aligning your interests, your goals, your challenges to what we're offering, what other clients are enjoying, and get a little bit of feedback, and try. It doesn't always work, but try to agree on and schedule next steps right there. Get a date and a time. So all you have to do is send send the invites out. And I'm telling you from personal experience and from coaching clients to do this, is that the more you can get this done, there's a direct result in the reduction that you're chasing potential clients to schedule those next steps. And it's a big stress relief, and can keep you engaged in a pursuit of an opportunity. So if nothing else, hit that pause button a few minutes before you're scheduled to end.
Perfect. Yeah, one more question here on
Sure. Yeah.
From Patrick. Is this all in the first meeting, or do you recommend doing a discovery and then scheduling the demo meeting?
Well, I guess the wise guy answer is yes. Meaning, so no matter whether, so if I'm hearing the question, if there's some discovery kind of a discussion with someone you're orchestrating the meeting with, then that's great. And I would say, if you've scheduled half an hour for that discovery, hit the pause button before you schedule to wrap up. How do you, for example, if that's that kind of a discussion, how do you feel like if I were the person selling and you, Jason, were the prospective client, I'd ask, how do you feel about our preparation? Feel like we're ready to go? We have a good flow, and and so on. So check in a very similar way, and I might ask right there if the person I'm orchestrating with, when can we talk after the demo? So schedule something right there for after the demo. I'd love to hear appreciate your thoughts about how the meeting went, what some of the key action items are that maybe we didn't get to, and so on. So another opportunity to get some feedback and not be chasing it. Did I answer the questions?
You did. No, that's perfect.
Okay. So sometimes it doesn't go like you planned. Right? I've been there. We've all been there. You had this flow worked out, agenda, and there's a surprise attendee, or the conversation goes incredibly well, and you never got to do your demo. It's okay. You're going back to, all right, they're interested enough to schedule a follow-up. Awesome. Great. Don't worry about it. So just I encourage you to be flexible, and to not worry about, I have to get through every step, I have to ask every question. You really don't. So sometimes getting to one of the goals that you had in mind, if you had 3 in mind, but you achieve one, which is get them they've agreed to a next step, and they're going to bring other people into the process. Phenomenal. So just to be okay with that. And that really is about it. Try to kind of make this sort of, hopefully it's you all feel like it's actionable. Questions, thoughts, suggestions?
Perfect. Yeah, great presentation. Yeah, let's see. There's a question from Emily on any tips on sensing when someone is actually interested or if they're just being polite.
Um,
Good question.
well, if they're just being polite, they're probably not going to agree to a follow-up meeting. That's,
Makes sense.
yeah, that's certainly, so, people they'll agree to spend half an hour with you. And if either then they don't agree to a follow-up meeting, and or they don't agree to sort of actively help you. I know that, many times you think you've got the right person, and then they say, oh, you know what, this isn't, I'm sort of related to this, but I'm not exact. You might want to, I think you should be talking with this person or this group. If they actively help you connect with that person and are okay, for example, with you, let's, reconnecting with them, just to make sure that transition to the next person's moved along. Great. They're doing more than being polite. If they kind of, don't really want to help you, they're just trying to be polite.
Great answer. And then from Pat, how much do you customize each demo for that client?
It is in half an hour. It is challenging. Yet as much as you can, the more you feel like, I'm sorry, the more they feel like you have done some homework and understand their environment, the more you separate yourself from the 25 other people that are trying to have the same meeting you set up. So, for example, I have a friend who has developed an app that helps organization, technology, device organizations keep track of their inventory, and he will customize the demo, use get their logo and so on, and give them some. He actually uses screenshots. I know it doesn't do a live demo, and customizes these views for them. So when he walks them through, they kind of feel like this feels like it's easy to use. This is essentially, roughly how it would look and feel. So use that information that you gathered in that, doing the homework, process, that part of it, to feed how that demo, how you customize that demo. And it's a great question to ask if someone you're orchestrating the meeting with can coach you on who else is going to be in it and what they want to see. That'll give you more sort of more nuance there.
Right. Perfect. Yeah, and then one more question from Jerry on how does your approach correspond to the Sandler sales process, also known as the submarine?
So in terms of, well, I know Jerry. So, in terms of how I work with clients. So Sandler and others are great organizations. They have sort of a path they want you to follow. Fantastic. I went through Dale Carnegie and so on. The way they want you asking questions, and that, if that works for you, phenomenal. I tend to tend to sort of work backwards from where you're comfortable, what you're comfortable with in the selling process, and where you're uncomfortable, and then try to work on those holes, if you will. Try to help you feel more comfortable and confident where you're not, where you're not currently. So, thank you for the sort of for the lead in, Jerry, intentional or not. More than happy one-on-one with anyone on the call to spend an hour. So that's why I say an hour plus an hour or so with you, and first listen and learn about what you're trying to achieve from a selling perspective. Try to share some ideas, from my background, and hopefully they provide some value. And I also have every Friday morning I send emails out to subscribers, just more of that sort of sharing ideas and so on. Just go to my webpage and one quick scroll down and be done in about 10 seconds. So other questions, Jason?
Yeah, one more is from Edgar. Is there any advice on what not to do during a demo, or what are some common mistakes?
So it's almost like working backwards from some of the, if I go back up here, let's see, where's a good one to, here we go. What not to do. Don't dominate the conversation, meaning listen. An old VP of sales of mine, Jason, told me 2 ears, 1 mouth. So sometime when I was, I don't know, 25 or so, So try to listen and learn more than you're talking. And you will, just by doing that, you will differentiate yourself from many, maybe even most of the other people in selling roles. And respect their time. I'm telling you, if you kind of make a practice, if you're not already, of when you're coming to an end of any meeting with someone you're trying to sell a solution to hit the pause button and respect their schedule. Even say it. I'm just trying to respect your schedule. I realize we got 5 or 6 minutes. I'm telling you, less than 5% of the salespeople that they have meetings with do that. So listen more than you talk, respect their schedule, be prepared. So if you can do that, I think I tried to answer that question from a positive perspective. If you're doing the opposite of those, it becomes very challenging. So
Great. Yeah, and did we want to go through if you want to put your contact up and then we can go through the exercise. Actually, Puck,
sure.
If you could go,
Puck, if he's there, I'm going to stop sharing and I'll put my
so
to you all here.
Puck, if you could go to the Q&A tab and video Q&A and raise your hand, we can pull you up on stage for this. There we go.
All right. Hi, everyone. Jason,
hello.
good to see you.
Excited for this.
You want me to introduce this or?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
The idea here is kind of go through a little bit of an exercise on, putting a lot of what we talked about today into action, right?
Yep. And I think if I'm correct, Puck, because again, this is interesting, limited time. It's a portion, kind of maybe that last third, if you will, something like that, of a demo kind of a presentation. So,
so Marc, I put this in the chat before we get into the role play. Do you have any best practices that you could generally share with the group about how, if there is a solution and need match between the person selling and the person buying, ways that they can generate a sense of urgency around getting the deal done? Any just best practices that come to mind?
So if you go back to how you define a qualified opportunity, if you identify that I'll make it up, the prospective client has to have a new solution in place in 3 months, just making up the time frame. One of the things you can do is create like a 1-page reverse timeline and say, okay, well, you want to, here we are in middle November, and you have to have something new implemented by December, February. So, right, for 3 months. So, February 15th, and you create this timeline. So if you want to be implemented by there, then the step before that is we have to have time for for the actual implementation and allow you get feedback from users. So if you go backwards from that, then maybe it's a contract, contract review and so on. So one page, easy for them to see that one, they can meet the timeline, and two, because the first action item when you go left to right is this week, let's say, hopefully, very soon, that hopefully will motivate them to get started on the timeline. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. Over to you, Puck.
So let's get right into this, Mark. We've had this great meeting. It seems like we've got a perfect fit for what we're providing and you're looking for. Because I understand that there's a need there, and what we've worked on really can help to solve some of this for you. And so I would love to get you enrolled in this right away. And I've got the contract here. Can we get you signed up?
So Puck, what's involved in getting your solution implemented? Can you walk me through that?
So this is going to be, so are we doing a B2B, or the way, because if I'm going for this close right now, let's get you involved. I'll do my business because we're raising our funds right now. So you're investing, our round's closing in a month. We'd love to have you part of this round. And it's got special opportunities for you to get in early right now. And so I'd love to have you in the round to be part of this moving forward. We'll be able to work together for the rest of time until we get out of this venture. And I think that'll be a joyful thing. And so is there any reason why you wouldn't move forward right now?
Well, I think I'm okay, although I'm not the only decision maker here. I think you've met Jason and Chris and Steve. They're also involved in the decision process. So I don't know if I can speak for all. Speak entirely on their behalf.
And so the decision is actually falling in with other people. And so if those other people saw value in coming in, then would you feel comfortable moving forward with the investment?
I would think if we collectively feel that, I'm involved. That certainly the other gentlemen have a significant amount of, if not more, input than I do. So I don't see major roadblocks, but again, I can't speak for them.
And so do you personally think that there is a fit? Because to move it forward with the rest of the organization, you need an internal champion and an advocate. And so are you comfortable in that role? Because I'd like to partner with you to help work with the rest of the group. And so is that something that you'd be interested in working with me to do?
Yes. Yeah. I'm pretty comfortable and confident in the what we've been talking about, and I think so. I think we should talk about the questions and or potential concerns that Jason and Chris and Steve might have, and let's work on that. So we have the hopefully a positive outcome.
That sounds great, Mark. I appreciate you taking the time to walk me through this, because I do think this could be a wonderful fit. So because your time is busy and my time is busy, can we put something together possibly next Tuesday? Next Tuesday I have open, and I can send a message out to the other guys to see if, or that could come from you. But next Tuesday at 9 a.m. probably would be the best time for me. Do you think that would work?
I'd have to check their schedules. I think the smart thing for us to do would be for you and I, because we're going to run out of time with our schedule right here now. But for you and I to just talk through how we want that meeting to go, topics to cover, what again questions Jason, Chris, and Steve might have, and how do we address those? And while we're so you and I should schedule some time to do that, and then work on scheduling with the other three gentlemen.
Perfect. So I'm going to send you a calendar invite right now for next Tuesday at 9 a.m. if that works for you.
Yep.
As a follow-up, and then we'll put our heads together and see if we can't come up with a plan to get everybody else to understand where we are with this.
Yep. Sounds great.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. And I'll
Thank
send
you.
that over now.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's a great, love the exercise here. A couple of things that stood out, want to get kind of both of your feedbacks on, like, Puck, the direction you were looking to take, and then Mark's feedback on how you feel like it worked out. So the first one is, instead of saying, "Are you in?" You said, "Is there any reason why you wouldn't be interested?" So kind of using the reverse terminology or the negative approach. How do you feel like, with that strategy played out here? Or is that kind of, where does that fit into the way you like to present?
Mark, do you want to take that?
No. I think Jason's question is really for you, Puck. That I think it's a good comment. What do you think? Taking that positive approach.
Because the positive, my natural position is positive, and so whenever I've spent most of my career in B2B sales, it's trying to surface those objections, because when that's a process of, can you figure out the why they wouldn't be moving forward, and then take whatever those things are and then work backwards from there about providing a solution. And so if they're not being forthcoming with their answers, or you're gotten to that point of the meeting where it seems like a fit and you're like, it's that soft close, I think this is a great fit, I've got the contract right here, is there any reason you wouldn't move forward? And it gets them thinking. And maybe they weren't already thinking of those things, or maybe they were bored and dazing out. And so, okay, here's the contract. Is there any reason you wouldn't sign this right now? And it forces them to think and verbalize. That's one reason. But Mark, your thoughts on that as well would be welcome.
So a couple of thoughts. I really compliment to you, Puck, on navigating, because I didn't make it easy, super easy for you. Your goal, going back to the slides I had, your goal is, I'm trying to close a deal here, and I didn't let you get there, and you navigated it well. To say, I'm going to be okay. In your mind somewhere, it's like, I'm okay with, I'm going to take what he gives me, because it's not as big a step forward as you wanted, but it's a step. It's a step forward. So good. I thought it was a good job there. I'll throw another option for when you get to that point in the conversation. You can ask it as an open-ended question, and this is personal style. This is kind of a reading the room, kind of thing about how are you. So, for example, if we switch roles, I might say, well, Puck, how are you feeling about moving forward? You could get a more. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I've got to look at our budget, because I know we've already got a number of commitments for this year, and we're going to have our executive team meeting coming up, and I'm going to have to put this in front of a number of other priorities that we're considering for the upcoming year.
Right. So now you gave me, so that depending on the situation, what you gave was a more expansive and more informative answer. If you, again, sometimes a yes, no makes sense. You're saying, is there any reason you wouldn't, or, are you in, either negative or positive perspective, you're going to get a yes or a no. So sometimes you got to, if it's a yes, awesome. All right, let's do it. If it's a no, now you got to ask why. So it's really what you feel makes sense. It's two or three good options there.
And I just to add, particularly with people that are doing the B2B sales, if they're going to executives, those executives could have lots of competing priorities. And so one of the practices that I know we used to do at the corporate executive board is number one, you have to understand what's keeping them up at night. So what are those things that really are bothering them? And then it's a little bit of the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And so if that is, and they don't solve that thing, then what does that do competitively for their situation? What does that do personally for their situation? Mm-hmm. And if they do solve that thing, what is the benefits of that? And so understanding it goes back to the individual. What are those things that are keeping them up at night? And then trying to solve for them so that they can go and have a good night's sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I like
other questions or?
Yeah. No, the other piece I wanted to point out was kind of the next steps in the scheduling conversation that took place. So, what I really liked is you had a clear follow-up there. You asked if next Tuesday would be a good time to get the whole team. Marc had already shared like who else needs to be involved in the discussion. So, either you knew that going in as part of the homework or you learned it as part of the negotiation, discussion during the meeting. And kind of the discussion there was, I feel like if it was 100% or, we're 80% in and I just need some feedback, it would be, let's schedule that time and, I'll make sure we get our team in. If it's somewhere in the middle, it might be kind of where you ended, like you're really interested, but not quite sold yet. Kind of end up where you did of, let me talk to the team first, see if that time works, see if, when we want to schedule a follow-up with you. And then, if they weren't interested, you probably wouldn't be setting up that follow-up meeting either way. So that's kind of the quick thoughts from my side, but we'd love to hear, any other, scheduling or what made you suggest like that specific Tuesday slot, or how do you think about that strategy?
Because sometimes people will throw up when you're selling, they'll be like, well, I need to see this piece of research, or I need to see this type of thing. And those take time. And if you've got a pipeline of things, you don't want to have too many things that you have to do. And so if his was just to sort of check with the team, then that's something that can be done over an email or a quick conversation. And so we could talk as early as next Tuesday. And so if there's nothing else to be done and you're just needing to check that box, you have 3 business days to check that box. Let's check in Tuesday. If there are more steps that would take, he's got a meeting on Thursday and he's not going to be able to see the people that he needs until next Thursday, then let's have a meeting on Friday. Like you have your meeting on Thursday. Let's put something down on Friday. I'm going to put a tickler on my calendar for Wednesday to see if you need anything for your meeting. And then let's have a follow-up to see how it went on Friday. But otherwise, if there's nothing else to do, let's talk Tuesday, just so we can keep things moving forward.
Perfect. Marc, any other comments on that?
No, I think that's a good job by Puck reading the situation. So it just anyone who's maybe a little less comfortable than Puck is in that part of the a meeting, it's going to be you get more comfortable as you go along. I see we're going to the meeting's going to end soon, so certainly please feel free if anyone in this meeting has a question, a thought, something you'd like to further discuss. I'm more than happy to make time.
Yeah, great presentation and really love the exercise here. Great job, Puck. With that demo scenario, and would love to support anybody. This is put on by Prepare for VC, Boston New Tech, and let's see, Marc also shared his contact information in the chat as well. Really appreciate everybody coming out. and any other ways we can help support, send us a note, and happy to connect further. Thanks again.
All right. Take care.